has done is that we receive a lot of oil crops, we receive a lot of products from Egypt, which we should be producing ourselves. We should not look helpless when it comes to production of things that can be done in this country. So I support this bill because I know there are areas that have not been explored by the Ministry of Agriculture. And if we explore those areas, we can actually raise oil crops, we can raise nuts that can be exported from this country, so that we are not always a net importer. Because when it comes to oils, we are a net importer, and yet we can produce for ourselves. I'm happy that this is going to cover everything. Nut, Mr. Speaker, we are a very lucky country. If you look at the coastal region, cashew nuts produced in Kenya are some of the best in the world. In fact, what is being sold in the streets of Malindi are nuts that you cannot even get outside this country, because the nuts that you get out there are broken and they are not as good as what you find in the streets of Malindi. So, Mr. Speaker, this bill should move us to the level when we add value and actually sell for the same farmers. Because what is being sold in the streets in Malindi can actually be sold 100 times properly. Our other problem has been being slow in value addition, and I think some senators have mentioned that even as we expand our agricultural products, the real challenge is how to add value so that we don't sell things that are raw. And if we add value, again, we go 100% value for the farmers, and the farmers will get much, much better than what we are getting right now. So increasing production is one of the things that this bill is looking at, which I really think is very important. Processing is the other one. If we can value add any product that we have, we can then be able to export. Because whether it is COMESA or the market that we have in the East African community, we need to value add to ensure that we actually export something that is quality. A lot of our neighboring countries have relied a lot in Kenya for a very long time. And yet when you look at what they have been relying on, they have been relying on a few products that come out of BIDCO. So we need to spread out and make sure that the farmers actually get value for this. The other thing that I really support in this bill is sustained research and extension services. Mr. Speaker, without research, we will not improve the yield. Without research, we will not determine where to grow what. It is very important that our research sector remains vibrant as far as the production and the production of agricultural products, including the oil crops that we are dealing with in this bill, is concerned. We need to support our universities with research funding. We need to support our agricultural research services with funding so that they actually research and have and improve on these crops. If you look at products that have been developed by our researchers, whether it is maize or wheat, you find that they are more superior because they are indigenous and they have been produced in the climatic zone where the crop is going to be grown. So really expanding our research and supporting research is something that is key, and I hope that out of this bill we can expand the research work that is going on. Of course, not to mention that extension services is extremely important, because it is one thing to raise very nice products, very nice seeds, and then if you don't have extension workers who can actually go from house to house, from farmer to farmer, to help them know the agricultural practices that will go along these crops, it becomes a problem. So we need to also expand that. These ones are very important because, again, extension service is something that is devolved. We are expecting our governors to start budgeting for not just the current crops that we have, but they need to start investing in extension staff in anticipation for these new crops that we are advocating, including the nuts that are here. We know that groundnuts grow everywhere in the country, but value addition has reduced our groundnuts to a snack for the country, a snack for children. And yet we know that when you are out of this country, a packet of groundnuts is something that is valued very highly, and it's something that people buy at a very high price, something that our farmers should be enjoying. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to take more than that, to say more than that, except to again thank our Senator Amhinda for coming up with a very beautiful bill, and I believe when it is passed, it is going to change the lives of many.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Julius Murko.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to also air my views along with the Amida for coming up with the bill. And so it may not be production that can meet a commercial market as such. And so there is really need for that our experts and have the knowledge about it to be able to help farmers produce in such a way that there is a market and can to commercialize so that when produced in a given area, people change their mindset to commercialize, not just for consumption, because consumption can be very little in a given area. Take, for example, nuts in West Pokot. If one grows for consumption, it may not really be well spread, and it may not really be commercialized. It will be well spread, and people will be interested to even learn from the other and not commercialized, but it was Asian because it was commercial. People increased it to get money attraction. And then also, somebody also mentioned natural extensionists were very near to farmers, and therefore for improvement of crops, and especially cash crops, there is need for our graduates from universities to be able to attach to given areas that farm or that grow the crops, nuts and so on, even pyrethrum, as somebody said, so that people that have studied it have made have taken time to do a research, can be able to advise the farmers so that farmers get knowledge and skills from a very trained person and skilled person. And then also this will enhance quality so that quality is improved. Somebody mentioned of seeds that are produced out of scientific research that are superior to those that may be passed on locally and people keep locally, but quality is improved by facts of research, and then also quantity so that people grow it in plenty and increase in areas out of expertise and advice from people that have knowledge about these crops. And then also processing is very essential, because without processing, it may not attract market as such, because processing will kind of attract required expectation for it to be able to be taken to the market and meet the expectation of the market, being processed, being clean, and being attractive. And so processing will also add value to the crops so that there is attractiveness to the market. And then also market where they go to and where they will be disposed to is also very essential, so that the productivity, the quantity and quality is kind of enhanced because the market is ready. So I support. Thank you.
Senator Joseph Kithuku.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kuweza kunipatia fursa pia nami pia niweze kuchangia katika mjadala huu ambao ni muhimu sana, ambao unahusisha ukuzaji wa korosho, nazi na vitu vingine kama hizo. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi ningependa tu niweze kusema ya kwamba Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka nishukuru sana Senator Hamida kwa sababu ya kuweza kuleta mswada huu ambao umekuja kwa wakati unaofaa, wakati ambapo tulikuwa tunahitaji sana huu mswada sisi kama wakazi wa Pwani, kwa sababu bila shaka tunajua kwamba Pwani vitu ambavyo tunaongelea siku ya leo, vitu kama nazi, korosho ni kitega uchumi katika kanda yote ya mkoa wa Pwani. Na bila shaka Mheshimiwa Spika, hii bili itasaidia sana kuona ya kwamba tumeweza kusaidia wakulima wetu ili waweze kuwa na kitega uchumi ambacho kimeweza kuzingatiwa kwa katiba na kisheria, vile ambavyo wanaweza kuuza mali yao na pia vile vile kuweza kukuza. Ningependa kusema kwamba Mheshimiwa Spika, ndio tuweze kusaidia wakulima wetu, serikali lazima kwanza kabisa iweze kuwasaidia wakulima kupitia kwa Ministry of Agriculture katika kufanya utafiti mwafaka ambao utakaosaidia wakulima wetu katika hali ya kuona ya kwamba wameweza kusaidika katika hali ya kupata mbegu mzuri kabisa ambayo itaweza kusaidia hawa wakulima katika mambo ya uzalishaji wa hizi korosho na hizi nazi, ambazo Mheshimiwa Spika, zikizingatiwa vizuri zitaweza kuimarisha uchumi wa wakazi wa kaunti za Pwani na kwingineko katika Jamhuri yetu ya Kenya, mahali ambapo zinaweza kukuzwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, ninataka niseme kwamba mimi nimetoka katika kaunti ya Lamu, Mheshimiwa Spika, na Lamu imejumuishwa katika mojawapo ya kaunti ambazo zinaweza kutoa mbegu ama kutoa mazao mazuri kabisa katika uzalishaji wa korosho. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, tuko na kisiwa cha Faza kule Lamu Mashariki. Ni mahali ambapo panakuzwa korosho ambazo ni mzuri sana, zimefanywa utafiti na zimeweza kuibuka bora zaidi na safi zaidi, na korosho ambazo zinaweza hata kupelekwa katika nchi za nje kuweza kuuzwa katika mataifa ya kigeni, na bila shaka zinakuwa na hali ya kuleta mvuto mkubwa katika uchumi, katika kuimarisha uchumi wa wakazi wa kaunti ya Lamu. Mheshimiwa Spika, pia vile vile ningependa niseme ya kwamba ni muhimu sana serikali kupitia kwa Ministry of Agriculture iweze kusaidia kuona kwamba madawa ambayo atakayotumika katika kuona kwamba imesaidia wakulima wetu katika upande wa kunyunyizia, kwa sababu wakati mwingine unakuta kwamba ile mazao inavamiwa na wadudu ambao ni wadudu ambao wanazorotesha sana katika production ya ule mumea. Na ningependa niseme ya kwamba ni mzuri sana Ministry of Agriculture iweze kuona kwamba imeweza kufanya utafiti, iweze kutoa madawa mzuri, madawa mwafaka kabisa ambayo yatakayosaidia kuona ya kwamba madawa hayo hayana madhara directly kwa mkulima, na pia vile vile hayana madhara katika environment Mheshimiwa Spika. Na katika jambo hilo bila shaka tutaona kwamba yale mazao yataweza kupatikana kwa hali ya wingi na yataweza kusaidia wakazi wa sehemu mbalimbali, Mheshimiwa Spika. Pia vile vile ningependa pia Mheshimiwa Spika niweze kusupport kwamba katika hali ya kutafuta market katika nchi za nje, ni jambo ambalo pia litaweza kusaidia sana wakulima wetu waweze kuona kwamba wameweka bidii, kwa sababu hilo zao ni zao ambalo liko na demand, na serikali ikiwasaidia na iwasimamie na njia kwamba wanajua kwamba watakapokuza lile zao watapata market katika nchi za nje, bila shaka itakuwa ni jambo ambalo litasaidia sana wananchi wetu na katika Kenya mzima. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna jambo ambalo limekuwa likiendelea hapo awali. Kumekuwa kukija watu ambao wanakuja kununua hii mali kutoka nchi za nje, wanakuja kuexploit wananchi wetu katika kuona kwamba wamenunulia kwa bei ambayo sio mzuri. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri pia tuweke regulation mambo ya prices, ili tuone kwamba wakati ambapo hilo zao linahitajika kupelekwa nchi za nje ama kuuzwa, bei imekuwa regulated ya kusaidia wananchi wetu ili waweze kujinufaisha kiuchumi. Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa pia niweze kusema ya kwamba zao ambalo linajulikana zaidi katika mwamba wa pwani ni zao la coconut ama nazi. Mheshimiwa Spika, nazi ni kitega uchumi kikubwa cha wakazi wa pwani, ukianzia Mombasa, Kilifi na Lamu. Ni zao ambalo Mheshimiwa Spika limekuwa likisaidia sana hao wananchi. Kwa hivyo ningependa ni support sana hii bill ambayo imeletwa na Mheshimiwa Hamida, kwa sababu itaona kwamba hao wananchi wote wataweza kusaidika na kuona ya kwamba wakati wote ule wameweza kuona kwamba serikali imeweza shughulikia na kucontrol vile ambavyo watakavyokuwa wakiuza hili zao. Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa tu niseme ya kwamba ninaunga mkono hii bill na tuweze kuona kwamba tumeipitisha kama Senate ili iweze kusaidia wananchi ambao sisi tumekuja hapa kuweza kuwakilisha. Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa nikomee hapo na niseme ya kwamba hii ni bill ambayo imekuja kwa wakati mwafaka, wakati ambao unaofaa, na ni bill ambayo itakayosaidia wananchi wetu waweze kujiimarisha na kujiendeleza kiuchumi, ikizingatiwa kwamba mazao mengine kama vile sukari, kama vile macadamia na ziko na regulation ambazo zinasaidia wakulima. Hili ni zao ambalo halikuwa na regulation, lakini kwa sasa naona kwamba it is the best time kwamba wananchi wetu watapata fursa ya kusaidika, kuona kwamba wataona kwamba wameweza pia vile vile kushughulikiwa na kuwa considered na Senate hili. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Speaker, na support hii bill. Asante sana.
Thank you very much, Senator. Honorable Senators, we have come to the end of the debate and now call upon the mover to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to reply. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleagues, the honorable senators, for their contribution. I have taken note of all the contributions. I want to thank sincerely Senator Tabitha Mutinda, Senator Faki, Senator Mundigi, Senator Tabitha Keroche, Senator Murgo, Senator Kamara, and Senator Githuki for all their contributions. I hold them highly. I don't need to repeat all of them, but I've taken quite some bit of note, especially when it comes to research center. And research center has been repeated over and over again with all the senators that we may require a research center. And global marketing. Marketing is important. Then I also remember that apart from marketing, when Senator Mugo contributed on skilled persons, the quality and the quantity increase. Then I also remembered the packaging. The packaging is also important on this, because you may have quality product, but then if you have a packaging that is not more or less attractive to the eyes, what we say is that take, what attracts the eyes, what catches the eye. then at times you may fail. So I've taken note on all that, especially the mindset of the people, and how we need to industrialize and moving around the marketing, and also commercialize when and produce. Commercialize in productive areas and not only consumption. Senator Tabitha talked about export, and for true, where we fail is the exportation, because most farmers are exploited in terms of doing all the farming, but then the benefits are quite few in terms of exporting. So exporting is quite key, and we are really hoping that the proposed board members are going to take, the key interest of the farmers in terms of exportation. In Mombasa or in the coast, Mr. Speaker, the women actually are the stakeholders, are the most stakeholders, because you may find the women are the ones who take the coconuts round in every house to sell them, so that at least they can pay their children's fees and the rest. So I feel strongly advocating for women, that the women here are the beneficiaries, and the youth also will benefit instead of being branded of taking other substances. Then they would have time to do the work. So with all that, Mr. Speaker, like I said, I do not need to repeat, but everything that has been said has added value to my bill. I really appreciate them. I really want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, for having that time and patience. And so I want to request, Mr. Honorable Speaker, that pursuant to Standing Order 66.3, I request that putting of the question be deferred to a later date. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well, Senator. We shall defer the division to a later date. Honorable Senators, at this point I will rearrange the order paper so that we proceed to call on order number 21. Clerk.
Order number 21, motion. Report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the status of implementation of projects funded by the conditional grant for the construction of county headquarters.
Chairperson, Committee on Finance and Budget.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do beg to move that the Standing Committee adopts the report on the status of implementation of the projects funded by the conditional grant for the construction of county headquarters for the 5 counties. Mr. Speaker, this is a process that started during the Second Senate in 2015, just after devolution. Its aim was to establish county offices, and in that regard, at that particular time, an ad hoc committee was set so that it could be able to give a report on the counties that really needed headquarters, because some of them actually moved into the de facto government offices and some other colonial offices, and they had something to start, but there are 5 counties that did not have anything to use as offices, Mr. Speaker. In that regard, the Ministry of Infrastructure at that time, Public Works more specific, was also involved in this particular process, Mr. Speaker, and the 5 counties that were affected or that were identified to have need for the headquarters were 5, that is Lamu County, there's the county of Nyandarua, there's the county of Isiolo, Tharaka Nithi, and also Tana River, Mr. Speaker. These counties, at the advent of did not inherit any adequate facilities from the de facto government, Mr. Speaker. In the budget implementation by then, Mr. Speaker, it was agreed that the national government, that is Treasury, will be able to support these counties with 70% of the funds, and then the counties themselves would contribute 30% of that funding depending on the bill of quantities that the public works would have advised, depending on the size and many other factors of the need of each of the counties of the 5, Mr. Speaker. In that, the county headquarters project was originally scheduled and to be completed at a cost of 518 million in the initial, starting with the financial year 2016-17, 17-18, and 18 and 19, Mr. Speaker. It has been quite a disappointment for the last 8 years, Mr. Speaker, because the time that was set actually lapsed and the completion was not done. And some of the contractors who had actually been awarded some of these contracts left the site, a site that the contractors have left, and also a site that is just a shell that the people of those 5 counties are not able, were not, or have even up to now have not been able to use these particular offices, Mr. Speaker. And so, in this particular 13th Senate, on July 4th, Mr. Speaker, the Council of Governors did appear to our committee, and they were able to put or table their issues that have caused the delays, citing issues that ranged from the Department of Public Works as key challenges, among others like the issue of delayed disbursement. Actually, not even delayed, like there has been no more disbursement because there were hindrances by the Public Works then. So, Mr. Speaker, the committee considered the matter and resolved to follow up the matter and recommended for a way forward, Mr. Speaker, and consequently, we convened so many meetings as far as these counties were concerned. And, Mr. Speaker, it's good to note that none of the members that sit in the Finance and Budget Committee actually represent any of these counties. But the committee really embarked and called in different stakeholders, that is National Treasury, Economic Planning, and then also the State Department of Public Works, the governors from the beneficiary counties, and the IGRTC committee led by its chair, Mr. Speaker. So, in the consideration, the committee, as a committee, we were able to point out a few observations, one of them being the 8 years delay that has been there. The issue of that the 5 counties up to now, whatever they have, these are shells that are in place, Mr. Speaker. So the national government was expected to contribute 121 million for the 3 financial year, which was totaling to 1.8 billion for the 5 county. However, as at the end of last financial year, which is 2022-2023, the disbursement from the national government was just 837 million only. And so the balance of 977 has still been outstanding, whereby 454, as we speak, after our push as a committee, has been allocated to the county government as additional allocation for this particular financial year 23-24, and the balance of 445 million has been allocated to the next financial year 24-25, Mr. Speaker. So there leaves a balance of about 78 million. We were able to cite the issues of inflation, putting in mind that the cost that had been in place as BQ 8 years ago cannot be currently the same. But the committee was able to agree with the governors of the respective counties that they will be able to fund the remaining balances to completion despite the challenges of the inflation, so that there's a win-win. Otherwise, then the projects will just lag behind and will not be able to benefit anybody, Mr. Speaker. The other issue on intergovernmental agreements framework entered into by beneficiary counties and the State Department of Public Works had posed a real challenge in effective implementation of the projects. For instance, counties were to enter into contract with the contractor, but the payments to the contractor were to be made directly to the contractor by the State Department. These were some of the challenges that the governors had really raised as far as the projects were concerned. The committee also noted the challenges faced by the projects and submission by the various stakeholders and recommended the following: that the intergovernmental agreements framework for the implementation of the project should be revised to ensure expeditious completion of the project. And secondly, that the IGRTC should spearhead the process of revision of the intergovernmental agreements that ensure that the projects are officially handed over to the beneficiary counties. The 5 beneficiary counties, as earlier mentioned.
Of the report on the status of implementation of projects funded by the conditional grant from the construction of the county headquarters in Nyandarua, Isiolo, Tharaka Nithi, Lamu, and Tana River counties. Honorable Speaker, the committee had held extensive negotiations with the concerned counties, and 4 of the counties were very cooperative, Honorable Speaker, except Tana River, where the governor, despite being invited on 3 occasions, he failed to honor the invitations, and we proceeded to consider the matter without their input. Honorable Speaker, we got very valuable input from the Minister of Public Works, the IGRTC, and also the county governments involved, because these projects were supposed to be jointly funded by the national government and also the county government. The county governments contributing about 30% of the total cost of the construction. However, the national government was not able to meet its obligations under the terms of the projects, and therefore most of the projects stalled. In fact, many had stalled to such an extent that counties that started their own county headquarters later were able to finish and move in, yet these others were still pending. Honorable Speaker, after very much discussions and deliberations, the national government agreed to hand over the projects to the county governments and also hand over whatever was pledged for the construction of this project. So now it is the responsibility of the county governments to be able to conclude these projects, and therefore this report should be adopted by the committee, so that by the plenary, so that the implementation can start and the county governments are able to do and conclude their county headquarters. Honorable Speaker, it's an issue that has bothered the committee, that the projects took so long, and the fact that in some instances the supervision was done by the public works, and therefore there was a lot of go and return, and in some instances some of the contractors who were given the jobs gave up and they moved on. However, in some cases, Honorable Speaker, some of the contractors are still on ground. For instance, in Lamu, I think they were able to commit to conclude the projects at the same cost that had been agreed upon at the time of inception of this committee. So, Honorable Speaker, without much, I want to ask our colleagues in the Senate to adopt this report so that we can have this matter concluded and launch these county headquarters in the next 2 or 3 financial years before we conclude the final sittings of the Senate in 2027. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to second.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the Senate adopts the report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the status of implementation of projects funded by the conditional grant for the construction of county headquarters laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 28 March 2024. At this point, Senators, I think Senators can make contribution to the... What is your point of order, Senator Kibwana?
Mr. Speaker, under Standing Order 41, I think there's no quorum, so I think we need to, you may need to ask for quorum. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Clerk, can you confirm? Sergeant at Arms, please ring the bell for 10 minutes.
Well, that is the quorum bell during the proceeding of the Senate. And this is as provided for in the Standing Order number 41. This is after the nominated Senator Hamida Kibwana stood on a point of order to inform the Speaker that the House does not have the required quorum for the business to continue, or does not have the required quorum during the Senate proceedings, and therefore ring that particular quorum bell that is currently on for the members to be able to make their way back to the chambers to allow the House achieve that required quorum for the business of the Senate that was slated to be transacted this afternoon to continue. The Standing Order number 41(1) indicates that if at any time in the course of the proceedings of the Senate, a senator objects that there is not a quorum present, which is what we have seen Senator Honorable Hamida Kibwana just do there, is that the Speaker or the Chairperson shall count the senators present in the Senate as or if it were in a committee, as the case may be. In this case, it is the count of the senators present in the Senate. 41(2) indicates if on the count that is under paragraph 1, a quorum does not appear to be present, the Speaker shall cause the division bell to be rung as on a division, and if no quorum then is present, at the expiration of 10 minutes, if the Speaker is in the chair, the Speaker shall adjourn the Senate until the next sitting without a question put. B, if the Senate is in committee, which is not the case, the Chairperson shall leave the chair and report the fact to the Speaker, and the Speaker shall adjourn the Senate until the next sitting without question put. C is that whenever the Speaker or the Chairperson, as the case may be, is engaged in counting the Senate or the committee respectively, the doors shall remain locked. But in this case is that if the Speaker is in the chair, the Speaker shall adjourn the Senate until the next sitting without question put. That is if no quorum is achieved at the expiration of the 10-minute quorum bell, or rather the division bell that requires members to get back to the House for the business of the day to continue. Before the quorum bell is that the nominated Senator Tabitha Mutinda had moved the motion on the report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the status of implementation of projects funded by the conditional grant for the construction of county headquarters, that the Senate adopts that report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the status of implementation of projects funded by the conditional grant for the construction of county headquarters. And this is a report that was laid on the table of the House, or rather on the table of the Senate, on Thursday, 28th of March, the year 2024. That was the business on the floor of the House. And the Speaker had called for members who may be interested to contribute to this particular motion before Senator Hamida rose on a point of order to indicate that the House does not have any quorum. So if at all that quorum is achieved, remember the House is set to adjourn at 6:30, 20 minutes to that particular time. If the House at any point manages to achieve that particular quorum, that has faced a hitch. It's a quorum during the proceeding of the House. If at all it manages to get that quorum, then those who are willing to contribute to this particular motion on the report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the status of implementation of projects funded by the budget, then they would get an opportunity to do that. Earlier on, the members of the Senate, Bill 47 of 2023, a bill by Honorable Senator, Bill seeks to establish the Nuts and Oil Crops Development Board with the aim of saving the nuts and oil crops industry. The nuts and oil crops industry is a significant agricultural industry in Kenya. This is according to the author of, or the mover of the bill, that therefore there is need for a strong and robust policy and an institutional foundation to support and guide the multitude of activities, operations, and interactions within which the industry, or rather within the industry, so that the growth of the industry results in a strengthened agricultural economy for the country. This bill proposes to revamp the nuts and oil crop sector in order to make it a profitable, sustainable, and development-oriented activity. It's a bill that seeks to revamp the nuts and oil crop sector in order to make it a profitable, sustainable, and development-oriented activity. It proposes to provide an avenue for appreciating the medicinal, aesthetic, touristic, and artistic value of various nuts and oil crops by encouraging value addition in the processing of nuts and its products. This is a bill that establishes the Nuts and Oil Crops Development Board and also provides for research and development to cultivate a culture of scientific excellence and professionalism in nuts and oil crops farming and industrial development. The bill also provides for the establishment, functions, and powers of the Nuts and Oil Crops Development Board, and further provides for the composition and qualifications for appointment of the members of the Nuts and Oil Crops Development Board, and also provides the office of the Chief Executive Officer of the board and the Secretariat. It also provides for the establishment of committees of board, as well as tenure of office of board members, and also provides for their remuneration, as well as the meetings of the board and other administrative. All right, the bell is off now. Allow me to hand you over back to the House.
Honorable Senators, having failed to attain quorum at the expiry of 10 minutes, the House stands adjourned pursuant to Standing Order 41-2A until tomorrow, Thursday, 23rd May 2024 at 2:30 p.m.
Luke 13, (10 through 17). And he was teaching in one of the synagogues on the Sabbath. And behold, there was a woman which had a spirit of infirmity 18 years. How long? 18. And was bowed together and could in no wise lift up herself. And when Jesus saw her, he called her to him and said unto her, Woman, thou art loose from thine infirmity. He laid his hands on her, and immediately she was made straight and glorified God. And the rulers of the synagogue answered with indignation because that Jesus had healed on the Sabbath day. Look at how he conducts his situation. And said unto the people, there are 6 days in which men ought to work. In them therefore come and be healed, and not on the Sabbath day. The Lord then answered him and said, thou hypocrite, doth not each one of you on the Sabbath day loose his ox or his ass from the stall and lead him away to watering? Ought not this woman, being a daughter of Abraham, whom Satan hath bound, lo, these 18 years, be